SL 2015. The speakers, I'll present myself. My name is Carolyn Vargas. I'm your account manager here at MIG, and we have Duke Swanson. He's one of our consultants here, and he's going to be doing our webinar. So let's start. Great. For audio controls, you can choose the mic and the speakers on your computer, or you can also use the you can dial by your telephone. There's an option that is provided, so you can dial as well. Questions. We'll have you can submit your questions and your comments via the question panel. We'll have a session at the end of the presentation, a Q&A session, and you can also let us know if you guys have any questions. Great, so we'll go over the agenda. So about us, we'll go over Microsoft Dynamics SL 2015 overview. We'll go over a system guide, web client, business intelligence, financials, distribution, a live demo, and again, as I mentioned before, we'll have a Q&A session at the end. Okay. About us, MIG, we're experts on the implementation and support of leading financial and business applications for Microsoft. Our solutions include Microsoft Dynamics GP, Microsoft Dynamics SL, and Microsoft Dynamics CRM. We have been in business since 1998, and we assist organizations streamline their business processes and maximize their productivity. We'll go over a little bit here about our certifications. We are a Microsoft Gold certified partner, and we are recognized by the Microsoft Business Solutions as a Business Premier ERP bar. So that's good information to have. And if you guys are taking this webinar for your CP credits, please let us know and we'll help you with that. Okay, so we'll start with the Microsoft Dynamics SL overview.
All right, can you hear me? All right.
Yes, we can.
And are you seeing which screen are you seeing? Just the plain one with Microsoft Dynamics overview, or are you seeing a black panel in the background?
The black panel. You have to change, yeah.
Okay. How's that? Is that better? Yeah. So you're just, okay. All right. Thank you very much for joining us today. This is a session on an overview of some of the features and functions that are new to 2015, SL 2015. But I also will be looking at what we do as a firm to help you with that particular conversion. We'll be talking about that a little bit later in the presentation. But thanks so much for participating today. This is going to be an interactive type of presentation. I'll do some presenting at the beginning part. I will do a short demo of some of the features and functions that I'm displaying on the PowerPoint slides, so you can see how it's working in live. And if you have any questions, go ahead and put them on your comments section in your session, and we'll get to those questions as soon as we can. Okay, so Microsoft Dynamics SL. What does it do? Well, this is the latest version of the SL ERP system, and it covers all the modules. None are left out. Anything that you have currently in your system that you're currently using with SL will be used and modified and enhanced. So all the modules are represented in the upgrade. That would be the project series, the finance series, the service series, financial series, the different pieces. One of the pieces that we will be looking at today is the web app, and that is an enhancement that we've been working on for a while to try to get a more of a cloud-based application. It's a way for us to get connected to the system via a web connection. And you've heard about the cloud solutions out there. Well, the web apps that we have with SL is actually very similar in its technology. It's an extension of the SL system that you currently use, so you can go into a web section and actually do certain processes, time cards, or look at reports and pull different pieces of information. So there's a lot of enhancements. It's very comprehensive. It's designed to make your life simple as a processor, processing information, reading information. Flexibility is giving us a more even keel workflow, so we can do our jobs a little bit better, a little bit faster, and have time to do more analysis rather than just doing data input. So with that, let's go to the next slide. All right, here are the different pieces, the different reasons that make Dynamics SL 2015 different than any other solutions out there. It has controls. There's a lot of security built into it. There's business intelligence that allows us to look at the data and make decisions based on how our business is currently running, which is really nice to have. When you have an ERP system like this, you have a lot of data that's going in and out of the system. Invoices and vouchers and checks and payments and cash balances and all that other stuff, and it's really nice to be able to see some productivity enhancements in this system 2015. When you go into your home page, you actually can bring in some of those pieces so you can look at them at more of a dashboard type of look. So the extension of your workflow is now monitored on different reports and some different views of the system, so you can quickly look at where are you in the cash side, where are you in what's outstanding on AR and AP, and so forth. Dynamics SL. You'll see here that we have 4 different, 2015 has these 4 different lines here. The system itself, role-based log-on by company, what that is trying to give us a little more security as to who can log on to which company. So if you do have a multi-company environment, you will not only be asked to set up your security so you can get into the screen, but also you have to be registered for that particular company. So you'll see when you get to log in that you will look at which particular companies you have access to rather than all of them. If you have all of them, then they'll all be listed there for you. There's some navigation and other integration options for Management Reporter. We call it MR. Management Reporter is the replacement for the FRX financial reports, and it's very similar in the application, but it uses a IIS type connection point to the database rather than the ODBC, which is what FRX is using. Business intelligence, there's a business analyzer, the refreshable Excel reports, which is kind of a nice process. You can either go through the smart list, which is also known as the quick queries that we have. You can export to a pivot table, to connection point, and what's nice about that is since the 2 pieces are both Microsoft, being the front office of the Office products, Excel or whatever, you can actually make your reports as dynamic as opening them up and hitting the refresh button, and it will refresh the data with the connection points back to the SQL database. Well, that's pretty nice feature. In the financial side, there are some enhancements to the intercompany. If you have multi-company, intercompany, as far as across different companies, you want to post invoices from AR or AP. We also have it for the project side as well. There's some payment terms enhancements that we're actually adding. I don't know if you've actually looked at those within SL. There's some pretty sophisticated dynamic payment terms that you can actually put into your AP voucher, so you can split the the voucher by installments. It's really a nice little feature within the system itself. You can, when you print out a report, you can actually use the email function. There's actually now a new button that once you're set up with your email system, you can actually, instead of having to export to a file and then attach it to an email, you can send it to an email right away. And there's a function, actually a little icon in the top left-hand corner, which allows us to do just that. On the project series, we have multi-company projects. This is the one thing we've been working on for a while, and it's been asked. One of the issues prior to 2015 is we couldn't really see the projects across the different companies, and that's what this really does. So when we do an allocator or we do some sort of maintenance across the different companies for that project, we can actually assign resources to different projects, whether in company A, B, or C, and we can see that process across all the different databases, which is really, really nice. Multi-currency for the project series, you can have, as long as you do have the multi-currency module. The project series can look at budgets in one currency, the base currency of the project in another. You could invoice in a third different one. You could have different requisitions or purchase orders in a fourth currency that all work together. So it's a kind of a nice feature that we've been looking for a while. Okay. All right, the sign-on enhancements. When a user logs into the system today, they see all the companies, no matter what the different companies would be. No matter where you have the access rights, if you have access rights to just accounts payable, it would give you the sign-on to allow you to get into the different companies. So in a multi-company environment, what we do now is we actually associate the logon through your access rights to be accessible to specific companies. So when you actually log in, you can only see those companies that you have access to, rather than displaying ones that you don't have access to, and try to get into it. It gives you a little error messages that you don't have rights to this particular company. So access right control accesses to the different companies, modules, screens, groups, users. Those are all held within the access rights within the administration section of SL. So when we sign on, you'll see different IDs. And let me just do the next one here. So if you're seeing on the screen here, when you log into a different company, I know there's only one displayed here, but if I only had access to the CBS type company ID, then it only gives me that one that I can get into. If I have 6 different companies that I can get into, it would show those ones that I have actually been granted access, so I can pick and choose the ones that I can actually work in. So if you don't have access to the company, you won't see it on this particular display. As far as the ROI email capabilities, this is what we were talking about earlier just a bit ago. ROI is the Report Options Interpreter. This is, for the rest of us, this is the report screens. This is the ROI interpreter. The Report Option Interpreter is actually a screen set that actually combines different pieces of the application. It looks at, when you log into Solomon, you go into the reports, you pull up, in this case, a trial balance, and you just push the button at the bottom, print preview. What it actually is doing is going to your SQL database, pulling out your data for this particular report, looking at the crystal report that it's supposed to bring in the different columns and pieces of data, and brings the report back to you. So when in the pre-print view, like we see on the screen now, you'll see that you have across the top, it's a Crystal report. So Crystal is actually the monitor of the report, and the SQL database is bringing the data into this particular report for you. So in the top left-hand corner, you'll see up in the, let's see if I can highlight this for you here. Up in this section, right up in here, that's where the icons are. The first one is you can print to a file and export it to a file, whether it's a PDF, Excel, or Word. The second one here, the second one is it looks like a little envelope. It's an email. That's the one I was referring to a bit ago, saying that the export process can be emailed. As you see in the diagram here, when you push this button, it says, okay, you're going to email the file. What's the file name and what's the file type? So long as you enter that particular, these two particular pieces, you should be able to connect with your email server, either Outlook or whatever your email device is, and send an email with the report. Rather than currently what we're doing now is we're exporting to a file, figuring out where that path was, open up our Outlook, and actually using our Outlook, attaching the file and sending it out that way. So what this is designed to do is to facilitate more easily used process. We're using the email capabilities right on the screen. You still have the print capabilities and the refresh and of the reports. So that's kind of nice to have that little email function. Okay. So another one of the report enhancements that we've been doing is that we've been looking at the number of report formats that we could actually use was limited to 8. That's been a restriction that we've had since I can remember, way back in the time that SL actually started running this process through Windows. So if you happen to need different customized reports, you're no longer limited to just 8 of them. You can actually, so if you have different report formats, invoice formats, whatever that would be for AP or AR, or if you have a different customized report for your trial balance or your detailed general ledger, you can actually put the different report in here. Once you create the report in Crystal, you may specifically go into the control maintenance and pull up that report number and just add it to the list. So this comes in handy when you have additional reports that you need, such as invoice formats or purchase orders, or if you have anything more than 8, you don't have to take out one of the items so that you can get it in the list. Report enhancements. This is very, very handy, and some folks think, well, this should have been in there a long time ago. What this does is there's a default report format maintenance. What you're looking at here is that you could set the default for the report so that when you most often, this is what the report format that you're going to use. So in this case, if we're looking at the GL transaction, we're going to look at, it's going to default to the posted report as most often. So that way, when we go into that particular report, we don't have to go into the report format, change it to whatever we need. Most often, it needs to be posted. So we as consultants can change that process within the database, but now there's a way for us to actually look at the report defaults and put them in a list. So you can see that there's 2 different reports IDs here, the GL transactions and the GL batch register. So we're going to default the GL batch register to summary rather than detailed. So because most often that's what we want out of the box. It's most often used. So when the report is opened, it will then display the default format. It is intended to help with the upgrades as well as to keep the defaults of all the reports in the database. So if you do an upgrade, these particular defaults actually come across to the next upgrade, the next version of SL, so you don't have to go back and reset all these things later. Okay, so what you're seeing here is the default report maintenance. The first one we're looking at is the GL transaction, and we set the default to posted so that when you do go into the GL transactions report itself, report number 01680, and you look at your default format, it's actually looking at posted. It's still going to default to the beginning and ending period like we normally have seen it, so it's going to filter based on the section where, or the period and the year that the GL, or this case, the GL is actually in and currently posting to. So you can change it if you need to. If you need to bring it back to the first period of the year, or the last period of the year, you can still use those beginning and ending periods. But the essence of the default report format maintenance is to set those reports so that most often it doesn't have to be changed, and you can basically just either use your template or generate a defaulted report format out of the box. Okay, so what I'm showing you here is that now there's a little more details on it. So as you see in this default, this screen was added. I just pulled up another example of the report enhancements. So my default I have AP checks going to multi-stub laser check form, and then I have the AP transaction looking at that's the report that pulls in the different transactions by batch type or transaction type, and I've decided that most often in the AP transaction or the GL or the AP checks, I want them to report as a default to the ones I see here. So what on the right-hand side under the checks, you'll see that the report number is 03620, and even though that the multi-stub check form is not the first one in the list, it still sets that report ID and that report format as the default, so it comes in as such. Now, even though you use this, your templates will still, work. They don't override your templates. It's just a matter of out of the box. If you go out of your particular report, you can set your defaults so you make your processes much easier. Okay. Okay, one of the really, really nice things that we've been doing over the years, we've had a lot of questions about pulling up a specific report, hitting that select tab, going into the F3 button on the first field, and it gives you a field list. And there's as you see in this, the front window, you'll have a field name where it says account.acct, account type, and so forth. But so many of these also have what is known as different views, and the coding can be confusing. So what we've done is we have actually added a description of that. The second column is the description of the field name, so you have a more common way of understanding which one am I trying to get at, trying to go after. Am I looking at account type? I'm looking at period of post. Am I looking at currency? You can use the description more intelligent towards what you're trying to find or trying to select on. Also, which is kind of a nice little added value here, is in the fourth column on a report field, it tells you whether this particular field is actually on the report or not. So if you happen to select by currency ID, as you see down at the bottom there, it's not on the report, so you wouldn't know whether the currency ID is actually changing the report or not. So this would tell me that if I do need to add the currency ID to the report, then I'll have to go into the report, make it a currency field, and put it in the right spot. So it will be yes. So I can see that if it's U.S. or Canadian or whatever the currency may be for my multi-currency process, it comes to the report itself. So this we call the metadata. Before we also had different pieces. So you'll notice that there's in the top right-hand corner, right up in here, where it says add. Right up in here it says type to filter. If you drop down where it says name field, you get the different descriptions. So all of the items in this particular column headers are actually used to sort by or select based on the description rather than the field name. So that's actually very helpful. So if I look at my a different way of looking at this is a chart of accounts versus the trial balance. You'll see that the chart of accounts, report number 01650, it has a different selection of accounts versus, it's looking at the account table, and that's what it is, and it's looking at the different field name, ACCT, account type, description, ratio group, and stuff like that. But often when we look at different reports, they actually are created by looking at a view, and the VR code here that you see on the right is a view of the report, and it happens to be the report number 01610. And again, it tells you the description of that particular field and the source and whether it's on a report. So some of the more simple reports, such as your chart of accounts printout, it may just only use your field names, whereas the trial balance, which has a lot of different tables coming together, account hist, and so forth, it actually uses a view to make your response time and gathering the data for your report much quicker. So in the right-hand side where it says name field, you can drop that down and look at description. You can look at source field and use those as your filters. Okay, access to reports via the web browser. New web-enabled ROI interfaces through the web apps. The web apps is actually an option for us to look at SL through a web page rather than having to log into the system through your computer at work. It gives us a little bit more access. You can run reports, you can do a lot of different things. It does not require a business portal. It's actually an interface through that, along with other reporting enhancements. This has views, runs reports. It can, using the web apps, enhances the essence of how you work within the SL database itself. Projects. For those of us that work with project series, you'll see that we've actually moved this into a multi-company environment. Similar to what you see on the AP and AR financials, you'll have you can actually, if you have multi-company activated in your system, in accounts payable, accounts receivable, you could declare that this particular account or this particular vendor is specific for this company. It can do business across the different companies. So we've basically used that same logic and applied it to the project series, where you now can look at projects across companies, which is, for those of us that use the project series, this is a really nice enhancements that we've been looking for a long time. So as you see in my example here, On the right-hand side, I have 3 different companies, and when I run some processes, whether it's allocations or indirect rate calculator, I can actually specify which company or all companies that I want to run this process for. So if you have, if you're doing some allocations for invoicing, you could actually do it based on the company within the SL. So in the screen itself, you can look at company 60, 70, or 80, depending which one you want to run that particular process for. So many project processes use this, and we have used we have incorporated the company ID has now been added to these screens, so we can be more specific to one company, or I can run the process across all companies. Okay, the multi-company enhancements, there's also security that we have to address. It's a restricts the ability for projects to be viewed by company. So just like we were talking about when you log into your system, you can only get into through access rights, you can only get into the companies that you have access, given access rights to do so. Project also has that type of security. With the enhancements of multi-company projects, security has also been enhanced. The company fields are now being used to help restrict which projects a user can view and restrict the ones that he or she cannot. So again, it's additional security. So we will look at a different project, the project's multi-company enhancement here. You'll see that in the 4th column, it actually tells you which company it belongs to. So if you happen to be a company CBS, you'd see it here. If it was associated with a different company, such as 50, 60, or 70, you would see it also in this particular one. So this is one of those little nuances that we've been waiting for a long time in project series. Prior to this release, a list of projects would be a really long list, and you had to know which company to go into in order to figure out what project to go after. So this is a nice enhancement to the SL 2015. Okay. All right, so the multi-project currency enhancements, so you'll see it here as well. So not only multi-company, but also multi-currency. So projects can be set up in one currency and have transactions stored in that particular currency, even though the company's base currency may be different. So you'll see here on the left-hand side, this project is in Canadian dollars, where my my database base currency is US dollars. So I can actually transact business for this project in Canadian dollars and have it convert into Canadian dollars for my invoices, and I can do all that revaluation process as well. Prior to the release, projects that were in different currencies would need to be in different need to be defined in different companies in order for you to look at the different currencies themselves. So in this case, I'd have to set up 2 different companies, one for a Canadian business and one for my US business, so I could run projects on either side. So with the multi-currency and multi-company, it really gives you a lot more benefit to running a business multi-company, multi-currency for the project series itself. Okay. All right, and the multi-currency, so for example, if your company-based currency is US, you can have a project-based currency in Canadian dollars, you can invoice in yen, yet you may have some contractors in pesos. So you can, accounts payable already uses the multi-currency, same with the AR invoices, but now we have the flexible billing invoices in multiple currencies, as well as looking at the projects. So if you have projects across the border in Canada, you can use one company to give you the vision of doing work in U.S. currency or other currencies that you need to. Basic resource planning. This is one of the areas in the web app, the web-based dashboard that I was talking about earlier today. The web apps is basically the cloud-based application to SL. So we can look at resource planning for projects. We can view the resources, the employees, which projects they're assigned to. We can actually make those changes using the web apps rather than having to go into the SL application itself and having to make those adjustments internally. You can actually do it through a web page, which is a pretty neat little process. Whether you're using a smartphone or your tablets or you're just going online at your laptop at home, you can actually view your projects and the resources available. So Microsoft Dynamics Projects information stored the project, the tasks, the assignments, the resources, when the start dates and end dates are supposed to be, all things that are needed for basic resource planning. It also gives you opportunity to assign employees to that particular project, so you can make sure that the right skill set is associated with that particular project. So this is a screenshot of the web app dashboard itself, so you can see the resource planning that we were just talking about before. You can plan by projects, you can plan by resource, you can assign some employee goals. It's more towards the utilization of the employee, resource utilization. You also have some goals by goals versus actual revenue. You see there's a whole list of items here that we can use for resource planning. What I also wanted to show you here is, since we got the screenshot going, if once the web app is up and running and you have access to it, you'll see that you have projects, you have resource management, you have inventory, requisitions, shared information, and way down to the bottom there's other ones for the financial series, whether it's a purchase order or doing some of the reports out of AR and AP. So this is just a screenshot of the possibilities that web apps actually can bring your particular company itself. It's a nice little tool. Accounts payable. Some improvements that we have in accounts payable. We do add the name and the vendor name, and the vendor ID is actually added to the check itself. So when you look at your database in the AP check and AP doc tables, you will now have the vendor name rather than just the vendor ID. It helps for reporting purposes. It helps get some different pieces of information on custom reports, and it's actually kind of nice to put those two together. On the 1099 side of things, we've, now that we're in February and everybody's trying to get their last 1099 process taken care of before the end of the month, as they're due at the end of the month, this next couple weeks anyway. So what we've done in SL is actually enhance this 1099 process, and we now have what they call a backup withholding. This is different than retention, but the backup withholding for vendors can now be set up to be automatically charged. So when we look at our AP setup screen, we can look at whether the down the box there, it says whether it's disabled withholding or not. If you check that box, you can say what account you want to withhold it to. So the AP screen setup actually defines the percentage and defines what accounts it actually goes to. So what a withholding really does is it says, okay, these folks aren't giving me their tax information, and I'm required to actually withhold. Some of us don't do it per se, but this allows us to really hold those 1099 candidates responsible for reporting their taxes. when calculate backup is turned on, sorry, when it's turned on, the system can scan the vendors through within it's the old vendor ID. The vendor ID itself actually holds the whether that vendor is going to be withheld or not, but the percentage is actually across the board. So the percentage is across the entire system rather than a different percentage for each particular vendor. Sometimes I think it's around 28% right now. So if you look at our 1099 within the AP setup screen, once you check that box of calculate backup holding yes, it actually comes across and says, okay, do you want to disable backup without withholding warning? Obviously, you probably wanted that on just to give you a warning that this particular vendor is actually being used. So when we go into the AP vouchers and application screen and you have backup withholding on, the little screen will actually come across warning you that this is a vendor that has withholding. So if this is incorrect or we've actually fixed that process and got their tax ID number, you should close out of that screen, make the adjustment on the vendor as a non-withholding, backup withholding process, and that way they won't have amounts. In this case, we have a backup percentage of 5%. So that what that tells us is that we're actually going to be submitting some information, some dollars to the authorities based on this particular vendor. Okay, so this is the little message that actually shows up and says, do you want to automatically have them set to all the flags for all the withholding settings? So when I go to the vendor maintenance, there's a couple of enhancements in here. So we go to the 1099 information tab, which is the fourth tab on the vendor maintenance screen. You'll notice that it still says once you have a 1099 vendor is selected yes, and you set your defaults, 1 for rents, 7 for employee compensation and so forth, 14 for the attorneys. And what you'll notice here is a couple different things. You'll notice that you actually can track whether the tax ID notice has been returned and you've been asked to get a better tax ID number because the name and the tax ID don't match. So you need to call the vendor and get that taken care of before you can submit and the authorities actually accept your file. So you can start monitoring that process. So the tax ID name and also the recipient name number 2. So you can actually have 2 different. So you may have a Venture Works Office Supply, maybe the main procurement person's address, or if they have a different tax ID affiliation, they're doing business as a DBA of a different name. You can put that in as your second recipient name. So it's just a different additional ways for us to track the 1099 process, so we are more in compliance with how the regulations are asked for us to do. Okay. So once you do a tax withholding, I run this process. And when you run the check, in this case, this particular person, Jay Adams, had in the 7th period, we actually had a purchase for $1,000. We paid him $950, but since we had a 5% withholding, we actually withheld $50 from that particular paycheck, or payment to that vendor. Now we have to send the $50 forward to the feds on his behalf, showing that we did withhold the $50 as required. Okay. So just want to make sure that we understand that withholding is different than retention. So withholding, we're not going to be repaying the vendor, where retention is basically a different concept, where in the end we will be getting paid or paying the day retention. But in this case, for withholding, we actually are going to be filing on behalf of the vendor. Okay, so on the print preview, this is on accounts receivable. This is kind of nice. This is one thing that we've been asking for a while, and we finally got it in the system. When you have an invoice that you run through accounts receivable, and once you put the information in to save it, there's a little button down at the bottom right-hand corner where it says Invoice Preview, which actually allows you to look at that particular invoice. So in this case, I have an invoice that once you push this button, it actually comes up and looks at a print preview. You can look at it, make sure everything is correct before you go further. Before, what we had to do was save it, look at the invoice. Oh, it's wrong. We had to make a correction, or cancel this one, or actually reverse this process by using a credit memo in AR and issuing a new invoice. So this is a way for us to preview the invoice so we know what it's going to look like in the outcome and everything's correct before we commit it to the database and to the customer's record. There's also in Quick Query, there's also a way to look at your invoicing. So you can look at it on the screen itself, or if you don't have that access, and you do have Quick Query access, you do have a Quick Query on the invoices, as you see here in the top right-hand part of the, top left-hand says AR Invoice Preview. So here I have two different invoices that I can preview at this point. Once the invoice has been saved or released, it actually comes off the print preview list, so it's already been taken care of. So multiple AP payments against a single voucher. If you have prepayment processes or prepayments that you've already sent to this vendor in the previous versions, you could only apply one at a time. Here you can actually apply prepayments of multiple prepayments to the vouchers at this time. So in this case, we have a $170 transaction, and we're going to be applying a prepayment that we had against it so that we actually owe them less on this particular invoice. It still records the expense, but it applies the prepayment to it and takes it off out of your prepayment account as well. Kind of nice. All right, so then when you hit multiple prepayments, a different screen comes up, a sub-screen, and it shows you that the prepayments, which prepayment you're applying. Use F3 in that third column there, and it gives you a list of prepayments that you can apply to this particular vendor's invoice. Possible value search. Now this is across all applications, across all modules. So it's a better way to looking up different processes. When you look at the drop-down filters, as you see in our screen here, we have batch number, screen, status, and so forth. You can actually click on all those different in the drop-down and select based on the period to post of 04, or the ledger ID equal actual versus budget, or whatever you need to do. So this is really a nice little feature in the current versions or the previous versions of SL. You'd have to go and click on the header of the column, and some of them were indexable and some weren't. So we've actually added the search capability within each column that we give you a view on. So when you hit your F3 on the particular screen, you can, in this case, it's a batch list. You can sort based on status versus batch number versus screen number, which is kind of a nice little tool. So you'll see that across all the modules, whether it's financial, project, or cash manager, or whatever you needed to use. So in the Quick Query, this is kind of nice. And there's a little button here in the middle of your screen here that you can export to Excel, and what it does is that you can create a connection point, a query table, a pivot table, and it gives you an opportunity to really update that file, that report. So it's still connected. It's not just an output process that goes to Excel. What actually is a report that actually is still connected to your SQL database. So you can open up your Excel worksheet and hit the refresh button, and it'll refresh based on the data that you asked for. It's really a nice little tool. So what we're doing is extending out the different opportunities and options and workflow that you have on your daily basis to make your life easier. Here's another one, pivot table. When you create a pivot table, it actually gives you how you want to, do you want to choose the pivot columns in the bottom left-hand corner here? You start in cell A1. It's going to give you a worksheet name, new workbook, or create a new one. It's really nicely done. It's a nice marriage between the Excel capabilities and taking your data out of SL right into the report. It really enhances your opportunity to look at data. So when I push the button and say create, it creates a different worksheet in Excel. It gives it a name. You can choose your pivot table fields on the right-hand side, and you give a different different analysis of this particular one. And since it's still connected to the database, once maybe 10, 12 days from now you want to rerun this report, just open up the report, hit refresh, hit your refresh button, right in the middle there, refresh all, and actually refreshes all the data and gives you more of a current report, all the current data. Okay, so you can see what this is showing you here is it just added, you'll see right in the middle here where it says connection string, go to that particular server, and again, I know it's more technical, but this is the connection point that I was referring to, and down at the bottom it says command text, select the batch number, release. These are all the data fields that you're looking at, so it gives you that particular report in your query table or pivot table that you need. It's that's an extra connection point with your SQL Server database. So here's the refresh all that I was talking about, and it refreshes the particular screen. So quick query enhancements on the web apps. You'll see that's under the GL. You have it's looking at how you can get more information views on the web apps, which is a web-based tool rather than having to log into your system. You'll see payroll, purchasing, accounts receivable, inventory, a lot of different enhancements that we've added to the web apps to give you anytime, anywhere type access to your data. All right, quick query enhancements. So if you click on the journal transaction screen, it actually goes into and starts building the reports for the journal transaction and gives you the information via the web page rather than having to go into the system. So now web apps are available to give you on-time access. All right, so let's look at some pieces of information here. The project series really enhanced on the timesheets for the web apps. The communicator, if you don't have project, this sounds like probably some foreign language to you, but there's processes that we're trying to extend into the system. Budget maintenance, inquiry, invoice approval process. They're actually working on enhancing the web apps by looking at the top used business portal features and replicate them into the web apps. So we're bringing the cloud-based type of web page data information to your fingertips, whether you're using a smartphone or a tablet or just something at home. You don't have to be connected to the system. You can actually use your the web pages to do so, which is kind of a nice feature here. So we're schedule app, web apps. Microsoft, we're going to keep enhancing these extensions of the SL system in 2015 and future versions. So we're basically looking at what we use most and adding those to the list as applications in the web. Initial goal is to has been accomplished. We went for the basic stuff, the ones that people use the most often, and now we're going to actually enhance and use business processes. Now, Business Portal will not be supported after SL 2015, so if you do have Business Portal, when you do the upgrade, you'll probably need to upgrade to the web apps. So that's the process of the future. Release cycles, major releases, hot fixes, web apps are actually being added as well. So we are spending time and looking at the web apps and giving those pieces of information, refreshing the data, security roles, data access are all part of what is being developed right now. All right, any questions right now, or do you want me to go to a live demo? Do you have any questions? Anybody have a question right now?
We have a few questions.
Okay.
We can answer them really quickly, and then you can just move forward with the demo. But
Okay.
there's two. Is there any way for administrators to verify access to modules by user?
You can. There's a couple of different pieces within the there's a report that you can export into Excel, and it kind of gives you a better idea. But yes, you can look at which user ID is associated with which groups, and which groups have access to what, whether it's a company, a screen, or a module. So you can look at that. So I would go under administration, and there's actually a report called access rights, and you can export it to Excel, and it's probably easier to run it that way.
Thank you, Duke. And then we have another one. Is there a limitation on the number of records searched for the quick query interface?
Not that I know of. I've had a lot of data come through on the quick queries, and I haven't seen any limitation as to the amount of data. So I don't know of any limitations that have been given to me. I don't know of any. So
Okay, thanks.
it will give you what you got, and so if you have a lot of data, it'll give you a lot of data. So okay.
Great. I think you can move forward with the demo. Thank you, Duke.
Okay, let me just move to the end slideshow here. And so within, can you see my SL screen? Carolyn?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I can see it, yeah.
Okay. All right, so this is 2015, and so one of the nice things that we have under the Home series, we have had this favorites that we can use. I don't know if a lot of people don't know about these favorites. So if I want to quickly go into invoice and memos, I can I can set up by user what is my daily flow and most often I use. So I can click off of here rather than going into financial accounts receivable and going into the invoice memos. You can actually launch it right from here. What is the really cool thing, and this is basically the biggest essence within SL 2015, is that not only can we get these favorites, but we can actually get access to other sites. So for instance, this is going out to the web and pulling in a different site within the system. So I can actually tailor both within SL and outside of SL what I want to get to as far as the different pieces, whether external URL or a screen within the system. But what is really, really a magic point is this role center. And what this does is it allows me to look at what I have responsibilities for. So I have activities. In this case, I have activities on due date. Something's overdue, past due payments, and it's refreshing right down here. And way down at the bottom, you'll see that there's a whole bunch of data. So if I just click on the one item, it's actually linked. It pulls up, rather than just give you information, it's actually linked to the vendor. I can go into the different documents and start looking at what's available, what's not available, what's outstanding, what's not outstanding, what I've been doing. So you can look at these documents, and just within the system itself, you can see how these things work. So they're very dynamic. So, and down at the bottom here, here's some There's communications I have with SL, the SL screen I just showed you within Dynamics. I have customer, source, community. So this is actually within the SL, I'm actually reaching out and looking at different pieces. I have some blogs out here that I'm watching. I have some internal information within SL. I have some receivables information that I can look at. They haven't been paid. This tells me what I need to start collecting on. If you're using project, it tells you these are the projects that I've been assigned to as the project manager. I can look at that particular project, and this one is supposed to be ending pretty soon, and I can just launch it right from here rather than going into the different projects and pulling it up. So what the real essence that 2015 is giving us is ability to reach out and extend our vision into the data, whether it's a quick query, whether it's a preview, whether it's looking at the different pieces that we're responsible for in these different dashboards on the Role Center. So it's really nice that we've enhanced the Microsoft Office products within itself using Excel with quick queries, pivot tables, giving us a lot more information at our fingertips. So there's just a whole bunch of nice things. So when I go into vouchers and adjustments and I F3 on this, you'll see that this is that mega data that I was talking about. This happens to be, instead of just clicking on I can click and sort it by this particular column, or I can drop it down and say I want to look at status. Status, filter it by B for balance. I don't have any B's, so that's good. Maybe it's used for unposted. I have some that are unposted. It gives me those items here. So it still works with, I could have just typed in this batch 12001 and have F3 and got to my 1 series. But this little megadata filtering process really helps us get data across all these columns rather than just give us a display of information that we can't quite use. So the process that we have, that we usually go in upgrades, is looking at a two-step process. Usually it's better for the clients because the downtime is minimized. We bring in a new system and allow you to test on it, make sure everything works. The reports, whether you're now using Management Reporter versus FRX, or the custom reports that you had in the old system, do they still work in the new system? It gives you more time to really look at the system itself, so that once you do the final rollout, and that's basically refreshing the database with the current data and going live on the different workstations. So that two-step process is highly recommended. SQL is updated, Crystal is updated, Solomon is updated, and your whole system is in a new environment that you can tap into. Plus, you'll have the old system. If you wanted to refer back to it, you'll have that as a system in the background. So, are there any other questions here? I know that we're slightly over our 1 hour, but there's just so much I wanted to show you here today. Okay.
Looks like we don't have any more questions, so.
Okay. So if you have any questions about the SL 2015, please let us know, and I'll let. Should I give the presentation back to Caroline?
Great. Thank you, Duke. Thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today. I just want to go over really quick IMIG support options. We have support plans that are reliable and consistent, and they are, very specific to businesses that are running Microsoft Dynamics. Our support benefits includes support with Microsoft Dynamics products, support with any related third add-on party, and fixed rates. If you guys have any questions or need more information, please let us know. You can send us an email to info@mig.com. For training, we also have, we specialize in training. We can do customized training to cater to your needs, and some of those includes well, these training options are available with our support plans, and we provide training to and support discounts. At the end of this presentation, a survey will appear. This survey is designed to help us evaluate and improve our webinars, so please take a few moments to provide us with some feedback. Thank you so much. Have a great day, all of you.